It's the end of April and I'm here in southern Spain, and I'm going to take you for a walk up this arroyo, this dry river valley, which I visited before in a video, but last time I came here it was autumn. This time it's spring, and so let's see if there's anything different to see. So right off the bat, this is Bath asparagus. This is a Star of Bethlehem relative, and it's a plant in the lily family. And in earlier spring, earlier than I got here unfortunately, it produces these flower buds, these flower stems, and when they are undeveloped and unopened, the locals like to pick them and they are served like asparagus. At the moment they are actually flowering, so those are the flowers. Those are the seed pods developing there. And this plant is known in English as Bath asparagus because it was imported to Bath in England and grown there as an asparagus-like crop. And we don't have to go very far to see something else interesting. So there we go, there's a little gladiolus there. Lovely little pink gladiolus flower. Gladiolus imbricatus possibly. Lovely. And that's some kind of broom. I think that's a pea flower. Anyway, we better start moving or else we won't get anywhere. It's quite early in the morning and the sun is not yet burned through the overnight cloud, so a lot of the flowers won't actually be open yet. So I'm going to walk up the valley and then we'll, on the way back down, when it's a little bit warmer, when the sun's out a bit more, we might see more flowers than we did on the way up. There's no water running in this arroyo at the moment, but when it rains really heavily in the hills, this turns into a torrent right here.
Ponte aquí, ponte.
¡Ay! Dios, tío, qué genial.
No risk of that today. However, you can see, if we just dig down a little bit, you can see the soil is actually damp down there. And that's obviously, if we dug down a little bit further, we would probably find water running or percolating under the surface. It's a very stony, gravelly soil here. A lovely pink flowered cistus there. I think that's a cistus. And we'll probably see some white flowered cistus as well. This is quite lovely down here. It looks like it's something like a little campion or a stitchwort type of plant. Pale pink. And there are so many things, tiny little things right down like this. I don't even know what that is. And also this. Reminds me a bit of Edelweiss, but I don't think it is. And so lavender there, more of that little campion, something else there, another little mustard or cress type of plant down there. So many tiny little plants down right at the soil level, and it's particularly green this time I'm visiting. About 2 weeks ago they had 2 weeks of heavy rain here, And this is actually a lot greener than I would normally find it when I visit here. Often by this time of the year the flowers have almost finished and everything's starting to burn off, but this year they've had a bit of rain and everything's looking really green and fresh and alive. Speaking of alive, if my voice sounds a tiny bit croaky, it's just because flying out here yesterday was a bit of a tiring day, quite an early start, and today I've got up early to take this walk, so my voice is not quite at production quality yet. And I couldn't help but stop and admire this lovely little vetch down here. I presume it's a vetch or a pea family type of, well, it's definitely pea family. Look at those beautiful little bicoloured flowers. It doesn't really matter how many times I see it, I'm always amazed when I find the wild examples of garden plants that are familiar. So lavender here, quite a common plant in this environment. You can see more of them down there. Beautiful lavender, wonderfully fragrant, and that's just a wild flower here. We will also find rosemary, again, amazingly fragrant, and just a wild plant here. Parts of this landscape are of course cultivated, so here we've got a little bit of a terrace, fig trees, almonds I think possibly. I can see an olive tree over there, another almond tree behind it. More fig trees. And that's a farm up on the top of that little plateau up there. Anyway, even though this is actually quite a broad river valley here, it's one of these things where when it's flowing there's a lot of water. Most of the rest of the time it's dry like this. And if we followed it up into the hills, which I've done before, it doesn't actually go very far before it just disappears up into little ravines and various tributaries. Look at a beetle as well. Looks like a lily beetle or something. Up here on this little slope we've got a chance to see some of the plants that might grow here if there was a bit more water. There's a irrigated farm just up there, and obviously there'll be a little bit of water and moisture running off of that farm off the edge here. And so here are some plants. Well, this is very familiar. Look at this. This is sea beet. We're not very far from the sea here, obviously. We've got sea beet, we've got mustards. That looks like an oxalis up there. Interestingly double flowered oxalis. But yeah, that's interesting to find sea beet here. Of course, that's edible. I'm probably not going to have the opportunity to pick and eat some of that, but it does look delicious, doesn't it? Another familiar plant from the garden here, fennel. Another one there. So here, as we get to slightly higher ground, is one of the white flowered sisters I thought we might see. So I can see some more of it down there and over there. So again, cistus often grown as a garden plant in the UK. The geology here is really quite interesting. This has been a kind of flood basin over and over again throughout geological time, and so what's eroding away at the edges here was obviously a riverbed or a seashore at some point in the past. In some places you can find these mixture of stones concreted together into new stone. A lot of what we got here is very mixed, different sandstones and shale and slate, with some interesting stuff like that. I don't even know what to call that. Obviously this part is used by farm vehicles. You can see there's a clear evidence of a vehicle track here. A little bit further up we'll get to a point where that ends and we follow the natural valley. And this is that point. So the track carries on up there and goes up onto the plateau. I'm going to go this way though. So starting to see more and more bedrock now, and I've often thought that if there's gold to be found here, it could be in little places like that. Or indeed places like this. There's another one of those little gladioli in there. And over there. Right, I think that's probably actually the end of our journey just there today. I'll have a look at that in a moment. Wow, look at that. So that's been carved out by the action of water. And again, I reckon if you were going to find gold somewhere, it might be down there. But I haven't got time for that today, unfortunately. I don't think that was as deep as this last time I came. Oh, excuse me. So that's as far as time is going to permit me to go today. We could go further up there, and I have done in the past, but time will not permit it today. So this is elevation wise, this is the high point of the journey. But on the way back down, now that the sun is starting to rise, we might see some flowers opening that weren't in evidence on the way up. So we'll head back down now. And yeah, in terms of the rocks here, such a mixture. Sandstones. That looks like a piece of granite or something. Very hard. And there are also then rocks which were clearly something else at some point in the past. So yeah, I think this has been probably, you know, in geological time, this has been worked and reworked as different rocks have been brought in and formed and then broken up and reformed over very vast periods of time. The fragrance of the plants here as I'm walking down, even without me disturbing them, the fragrance of the rosemary, the lavender, there are various other resinous smelling plants that, yeah, really spicy and resinous and perfumed. Just down there, look, we can see there's evidence of water, so maybe a little trickle of water has flowed down here. There's no rain forecast today, so no great risk of a sudden torrent. I wouldn't be walking here in wet weather because the danger of a sudden flash flood that would just barrel through here, carrying quite large rocks and obviously a large volume of water, is present when it rains, and I would not court that risk. Now there are bits of rock here that look like maybe they might have iron in them, which could be an indication of other minerals as well, including gold, silver, those sorts of things. Another time, I might bring a pan here and we may do a little bit of amateur prospecting. Very amateur because it's not my skill set. There's a fan palm, look, grown as an ornamental often in the UK. This is one of the fan palms, probably borderline hardy in the UK. Really common to find growing here. You can see more of them up the hill there. As it gets drier, obviously the arid adapted plants will tend to prevail, but we're heading back down now. Ah, right, here's another one. Look. So this is another plant familiar to me from the garden, specifically the herb garden. This is thyme. Amazing fragrance. And there's a little rosemary there, a kind of prostrate form of rosemary in flower. Pink flowered rosemary, how about that? Yeah, there's another rock there. I would say almost certainly containing iron. Okay, and there we go. So we're joining the track again now. And one thing that's starting to open up now is this Bugloss, which is a very common plant across here, and it has these lovely flowers that vary, presumably depending on age or some other condition, from sort of magenta pink through to purple blue. Very pretty. Up here in the top of this hill you can see lots of little caves. Some of these will be just natural things that have been carved out by the elements. Some of those might have been helped a little bit by humans. So yeah, those caves up there very likely would have been used by shepherds and goat herds as temporary overnight shelter while their flock might be grazing down here. And as the sun is coming up, so here's a plant in the convolvulus family, so bindweed and morning glory family, not quite open yet, but that will be a trumpet shaped pink flower when that opens. More of it over there. Here's something else interesting, which is growing on what's almost kind of like a little meadow here. And I mean, there's a form of wild barley there, but this is like a blue clover. Definitely pea family, definitely kind of clover relatives, but it's a purpley blue one. Very pretty. And there's a plantain there as well. Many more plants here to study actually than this video will possibly cover. And how about this? You know, if you've only ever thought of Spain as an arid country, look at this. Isn't that a beautiful scene? So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed joining me on this morning spring ramble in southern Spain. It's very beautiful here and I've really enjoyed it myself. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you again soon.